Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I'm so glad that you kept tonight's appointment. My guest tonight is Brother Lamont Maurice L., a Moorish American Consul, Vizir General, constitutional law enforcer, and entrepreneur. Now, some of you may be familiar with his 2013 case in which made national headlines when Lamont Maurice L. was labeled a squatter, underwent extreme character assassination in the media, and endured 5 years of false imprisonment by foreign hybrid European colonists occupying North America for making a lawful adverse claim to his inherited ancestral estate by treaty right. The original case was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. Nevertheless, Lamont spent 5 years in captivity on totally separate, falsified charges, which you're going to hear about tonight, none of which the media has ever made mention of, retracted, or updated to this very day. Now, the case became a landmark court case that is now studied because of its historical and legal significance. But you know what? They didn't know what they were doing by incarcerating him in captivity, because Lamont Maurice L. was able to use the time in captivity to sharpen his constitutional law enforcement knowledge and skills. And we are so pleased to have him with us tonight. He's going to talk about the case and one of the great things that he's been doing since returning to Amexa. And I want you to help me welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G, Lamont Maurice L. Welcome to Office Hours. How you doing?
Islam. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Yeah, you have to rock a little bit when the music is still playing, and I'm finished your intro. Then we have to rock. There you go.
Yeah.
Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. And I know that this is a much anticipated episode because you come with a wealth of knowledge and experience that many many of the Moors have been hearing. They've heard about your case, and good, bad, and indifferent, but the truth is never told in the media because it's the media.
Yeah.
So now you have your opportunity to, really talk about what happened back in 2013 and what has happened since then. You and I talked a bit, and yours is probably, well, it is interesting to say the least. Your case is very interesting, and the main thing I think is that people think that you lost. They think that you were defeated in what you were doing, but the truth is going to come out tonight, and hopefully others will not be afraid to, if we all kind of join together and do what's right, we can reclaim what's ours. So again, welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, we're gonna clear this up tonight. Thank you. Finally.
Yes. Finally. And you're going to share some information. I don't know whether you want to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about you first. We talked a little bit yesterday, and a lot of times when people, there's a stereotype of who we are and who goes through the process of claiming properties and so forth and so on. And I think it is just that, it's a stereotype. But you are a person who, not a person, you are a man who has studied and realized what your rights were as a Moor, as an Aboriginal, and you realized you had rights, and you just went about exercising them. And as a result of that, it raised the ire, if you will, of the colonizers, as it normally does. And as they normally do, they tried to make an example, it seems, of you.
Yeah. So when I first started in this movement back in 2011, I was intrigued because I used to be employed. I used to be a federal employee for the United States Department of State. And my mother actually worked for the Bureau of Consular Affairs with the United States Department of State for over 20 years. So it was interesting because watching, being an employee and watching foreign nationals and how they're respected when they come over here in North America versus, our people here in North America, which don't have a nationality, national flag, because they come under the brand names Negro, Black, Colored, etc. And it's just like, we're treated as what they call second-class citizens. And there's really no such thing. So when I began to study, it started with when I exercised my right to travel. And I was actually looking forward to getting pulled over and getting a traffic ticket so that I can see, when having a nationality and a national flag and you're being recognized on an international platform, I wanted to see how that worked in relation to us as Moorish Americans versus us as Black or African American. And in that traffic case, I had the experience of challenging the jurisdiction of the court. And what I found out was, I've never really been to court before because, I had a top secret security clearance and you can't have anything on your record. So I was pretty much clean. And when I had this court experience, I challenged the jurisdiction, and the acting administrative clerk, who all people know as a judge, but they're not judges. I noticed that they would transfer me from one to another, and I noticed that they never proved their jurisdiction. They never proved to have a delegation of authority order from Congress per Article 3 of the United States Republic Constitution. They never proved that was an actual court. So that baffled me. And I'm like, oh man, so they would dance around the challenge. So, long story short, I was successful in my traffic case in DC. That's, this case right here. It's a DC traffic case where all the charges were dismissed. And that was because I proved lack of jurisdiction, or for lack of a better words, they didn't prove jurisdiction. So after that, I was pretty much sold because I like to study, but a part of studying is experience. And once I had that experience, it was like, okay, this is our land, and this is this is big. This lie. This deception, which has been going on for hundreds of years, is only going to stop if we, the people, the indigenous people of the land, do something about it, because this is actually our land. So I was like, okay, well, I want to start with claiming my birthright, my inheritance to a parcel of this land. And I look, brother Taj Tariq Bey, gratitude to him, great honors to Taj Tariq Bey, because I'm a student actually of Taj Tariq Bey. He always referred to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and how the treaty obligations hold them as trustees or fiduciaries in the Republican form of government. They're the fiduciaries holding our land in trust by way of abandonment. So that article should be in the treaty. So I looked for that article, basically the reversion of a state article, and it was in the treaty. Actually, it's Article 22 of the treaty, where it talks about if an American citizen shall die in our country. And I was like, okay, so if we have an inheritance, this inheritance includes this vast estate on the North American continent, which is actually the North American continent. I'm going to claim my parcel as an Aboriginal and indigenous Moorish American, and they made a big fuss about it.
Well, they made more than a big fuss about it. You were on the lips of the Miss Gail King and other. I mean,
Yeah, that's unfortunate that she had to be a part of that. Her and a few other people, because of either misunderstanding or because she knows the truth maybe and she chose her side. Either way, the truth doesn't change. It's still our state. And it's funny because the thing they called me, squatter. I never heard of a squatter before. I never heard the word squatter. So when I heard them say it on the news, it was like, oh, you're a squatter. He's a squatter. He's squatting on the property. I was like, squatting? What? Okay, so the first word I thought of was squat. And I'm like, what? I squatted like I'm just chilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And but then when I looked it up, it was when people try to like possess property without right, and I was like, well, not. I showed my right, and not only that, the detective, he, his name was Kenneth Penrod, a foreign hybrid European colonist. He actually came to me and was actually sincere. I guess he was just playing a good cop. There were no other additional detectives. It was just him by himself. And he came to visit me while I was being held in PG County Detention Center. And first thing he did was lied and tell the guards that he was an attorney. And I was like, I don't use attorneys. What? I don't have. How do I have an attorney visit? But nevertheless, I went down. I went down and talked to him, and he sounded pretty much sincere at the time, even though I know he was acting. And he was just asking. He was like, this is above my pay grade. I'm not understanding actually what you did or what you're trying to do. And I was like, well, I didn't try to do anything. I claimed my inheritance according to treaty law. Treaty law, or the treaty, is the supreme law of the land. It actually predates the Constitution. And we had like a 2-hour conversation. And for some reason, they still wanted to move forward. And this was after I actually used the Constitution and treaty, meaning, I challenged the jurisdiction of several courts, several court cases in Prince George's County and the District of Columbia and Alexandria, Virginia. And I was successful. So I told him, I said, listen, if you and your state's attorney chooses to move forward with the case, all I'm gonna do is challenge the jurisdiction of the court and they're gonna dismiss it. And I guess he didn't believe me or whatever, but they chose to move forward. They slandered me. They said, they actually fabricated the story. Said I moved in and I came to the door with the shotgun and all of that stuff. And none of that happened. I actually, what happened was in May 2013, I made the claim. I made the claim to the land that the property sits on. And there's a lawful maxim. There's a maxim. And it's written in Moorish Latin in the Black's Law Dictionary, but it starts off with solo. But I know the translation of it. It is anything built upon the soil belongs to the soil. So if I'm claiming the soil as my inheritance, then that means anything that's built upon it belongs to it. And they actually calling me a squatter when actuality, when you know the history of the United States and the actual United States corporation company that is pretending to be a legitimate government, then you'll know that they're the actual squatters. They actually are basically squatting on the land that they have no lawful or legal right to. And what they do is they try to do a projection, whereas though they like, I guess, play reverse psychology to make it like, oh, you know, they're basically claiming me to do what they're actually doing. You know what I'm saying?
May I interrupt just for a moment? Just for
Yeah.
the benefit of those who may not know, can you explain what jurisdiction is? I know Grand Sheik's been talking about it, but from your standpoint and what you established in those cases regarding you and that property, please explain what jurisdiction is and where does it extend? Does it go beyond a case such as yours?
Okay. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. He's talking about jurisdiction. Chapter 47. First, we're going to establish the boundaries of the Moroccan Empire, the jurisdiction, the dominions, right? Chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa, starting at verse 6 to verse 7. Verse 6, the Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit Northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Verse 7, their dominion and inhabitation extended from Northeast and Southwest Africa, across Great Atlantis, even into the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. So that's the first jurisdiction. Dominion and jurisdiction is synonymous with each other. Okay. So the jurisdiction of the Moroccan Empire is extended from Northeast and Southwest Africa to North, South, and Central America, and everything in between. So if there is a venue within that jurisdiction that's exercising their jurisdiction, then of course, consular jurisdiction applies. So now I'm gonna back up for a minute. And I'm gonna talk about the three issues of law. And this is in common law. Common sense. This is with everyone. We all have senses that are in common, right? Mm-hmm. So the first issue of law is status. Second issue is jurisdiction. The third issue is adjudication, whether it be on the subject or the matter, whatever the matter is, whatever the subject is. So the first thing that has to be established is status. That includes citizenship, which means nationality. So what I established in the court cases, or in those cases, those collusive actions, really, under color of law, was status. Because what they do is they address you as a stateless person. You know, stateless persons is basically persons without a name or nationality. And everyone that's branded Negro, Black, or colored, or that consent to those brand names, including Indian, Spanish, Puerto Rican, etc., they're really classified as stateless persons. So what they did was they addressed me or identified me status. They identified me as a stateless person, i.e. Black, under the Black codes. Now here in near the Maryland and District of Columbia territory, the Black code on the charging document where it says race is 1. I don't know if that's uniform throughout North America, but the number one for race is the Black code in Maryland and in the District of Columbia. So the first thing that has to be addressed is status. So I establish status, who I am as a Moorish American, being Aboriginal and indigenous to these territories, North, South, Central America, all the way to the continent of Africa, what known as Africa today. And I challenge the court's jurisdiction. And you do it in writing too. But I challenged the court's jurisdiction and I demanded for their status to be produced on for the record, meaning their citizenship, and for their proof of jurisdiction, which is if you are claiming to be exercising judicial authorization under Article 3, the judicial powers, then that has to come from Congress, because Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution for the United States Republic of North America states that the judicial powers of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. So that means Congress, besides the Supreme Court, Congress from time to time ordains and establishes judicial authorization or judicial powers to inferior courts. Doesn't matter what the court is, federal, state, county, city, municipal. Now, if that venue does not have if that venue does not have a delegation of authority order, which shows that Congress delegated that limited power to this administrative agency, then that means it's not a court. That means it's exactly that, a private corporation acting as an administrative agency. And because they could not prove jurisdiction, this is what they'll do. They'll try to intimidate. They'll play word games. They'll ask you if you're representing yourself. And of course, you can't represent yourself. You can only present yourself. And and you wouldn't answer that. You would challenge them and continue to demand that jurisdiction be proved for the record, or else they can't move forward. So,
are you looking for them to produce documentation to you when you're saying, proving jurisdiction? Would they be expected to, like you said, a delegation of authority, or what would they be presenting to prove jurisdiction? And for those who benefit of those who are listening, what would you or us as the indigenous people of the land who would come in their de facto venues, what would we use to prove, establish who we are? Is it a copy of our paperwork? I mean, did you have to send it to 7 places plus, or what happens to establish? Because I'm sure those that are listening saying, I did my paperwork. So does that?
Yeah. So for the people that think that the paperwork is what saves you, think again. The paperwork is just that. It's paperwork. It's paper with words on it. That's what it is. It conveys communication to whoever the party is in the paperwork that is being addressed to. The communication comes from you. So if you don't study that paperwork and are able to stand on that paperwork, be that paperwork, the energy of that paperwork, then it's not going to mean anything. So to tell you the truth and to be frank with you, I did not nationalize on paper with the nationalization documents until after I won my traffic case. What I did was I drafted an affidavit of fact. At the time, it was called writ in the nature of discovery and disclosure. And I challenged the jurisdiction of the court. First, I asserted on the paper, for the record, I am Lamont Maurice L., a natural person in full life, in propria persona sui juris. So that's the status. And the second thing, so that's me nationalizing technically right there on the paper and on an affidavit. And the second thing was I showed my relationship with the entity that they're claiming me to be, or that they're attempting to compel me to stand as surety for. The nom de guerre, Lamont Maurice Butler. So I said, I come now under duress making a special appearance as authorized representative, ex rel, Lamont Maurice Butler. Ex rel meaning it's short for ex relation, which means on the information of. So I'm here on the information of this entity as authorized representative by way of special appearance. And that's the status. All of that is the status that's asserted on the affidavit. Now, affidavits are sworn statements signed under penalty of perjury. So if it's a sworn statement signed by the affiant, then that means liability can reach the affiant. The only way that affidavit can be rebutted is if the opposing party files an affidavit rebutting it, and they sign under penalty of perjury so that liability can reach them. And that was the key right there that showed me that, okay, well, this is actually truthfully real, because why isn't the state's attorney or the district attorney responding to the affidavit? They didn't say anything. So for those that think that when you send out your documents, whether it be your lawful notice, name correction, or your judicial proclamation, or even when you challenge the court's jurisdiction or you're disputing a debt or what have you, and they don't respond, that doesn't mean that they didn't acknowledge it. If they don't acknowledge it, they're going to send you something saying that they don't acknowledge it, especially if it's dealing with a case. If you didn't have the right to file that in their record, then they will send it back, the original, with a memorandum saying you can't file this, go get an attorney. So that alone, and by our documents being made a part of their record, shows your standing in their record. First, the status. And now when you make the physical special appearance, if you're compelled to, before the venue, you know that they got the paperwork and the means of communication, and they now know what you're coming there to talk about. Meaning you're not going outside of, they call it the four corner rule. You're not going outside the four corners of the document. And that's how you become the paperwork. That's how you are able to stand on the paperwork. So that's what's established first. You are not nationalized because of the paperwork. You're nationalized because of the state of mind, right? Because you're coming out of that colonial way of thinking. And I want to read one more thing, speaking of on that note, from chapter 47 in the Holy Quran, starting at verse 9 through 11. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the holy land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his powers extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So right there it tells you, even though you didn't know you was Moorish American, you're still Moorish American. Even if you don't put the your signature on those nationalization documents, which actually is a declaration of your political and national standing before the world, and it's a reversion of a state, like Brother Taj Tariq Bey said. Even if you don't sign those documents, you're still a Moorish American. It's like saying, you know, for 36 years, I thought elephants were pit bulls, and I found out they're not pit bulls, they're elephants. So what do I do now? You call them elephants. So if anybody tries to call you anything outside of human or Asiatic, which is the race, then you already know they're trying to steal your birthright. It's not racism. They're trying to steal your birthright. They're trying to denationalize you. And that's what all need to know. The paperwork doesn't save you. It's this that saves you. It's what you know.
So it was interesting when we were talking, and I don't know whether I'm getting ahead or not, but you had a situation where you appeared before the administrative clerk, and I think that's who it was, and you had some questions with regard to I don't know what your questions were, but what came up was that you had been appearing there voluntarily. And
Oh yeah.
can you talk about that?
All right. That was Mr. Terrence J. McGann. They said that he was the big bag, and I'm quoting. They said that he was the big bad judge of Montgomery County, Maryland. It was bought before initially. The Mansion case was bought before two other administrative clerks. They're administrative clerks, so I'm gonna speak proper. Two other administrative clerks, and they both transferred it. And then on Maryland Case Search, when I was checking it to see who it was transferred to, it said that they made it a Track 4 case. Track 4 case in the Maryland, the Montgomery County Circuit Court rules or whatever means a complex case. So they changed the status of the case to complex, saying that it was difficult because I wasn't letting them go past jurisdiction. And they brought me before McGann. Now, prior to me going before McGann, I was before, I believe her name was Harrington or something like that. And I told her on the record, because I already challenged the court's jurisdiction in district court for Prince George, district court for Montgomery County. And when they transferred it to circuit court, I didn't have to challenge jurisdiction again because jurisdiction was not proved in district court. So I filed the default judgment, the notice of default judgment in circuit court. But I forgot to not come back to court. And it's because, when you're going through the processes of these things and all of this all these psychic attacks are shot at you, then you tend to forget things because you're focusing solely on the present moment. So at the present moment, I was just like, I'm ready to go to war. So if I'm going before this big bad so-called administrative clerk named McGann, then I'm gonna be ready for him. And but in front of Harrington, the female, I told her that I would not be making any more special appearances before this venue because you all failed to prove jurisdiction. And there was a sister with me too. Her name is Sakita. She also said the same thing. We were basically, they had us as allegedly co-defendants in the case. So we were pretty much co-operating with each other. And she said exactly what I said. We're not coming back because y'all don't have jurisdiction. And Harrington said, okay. She said, okay, well, can we at least give you this notice for the next hearing so that we can at least say that we gave it to you? I said, absolutely not. I'm going to let it sit right there. I'm not going to touch it. That is not proof of service, and it's not even addressed to me. So that's inducement to fraud, but I'm not going to touch it. So we're not coming back. But and we were free to leave. And the following week, because that's when they were scheduled it, the following week, not going to say her name, but there was a female that was with the group that we had in our territory, and she called me first thing in the morning, saying that I need to get up, I need to go to court. They're waiting for me, and court started at 9:30, and it was 8:50. And mind you, I'm all the way out with the territory known as Charles County, and court was all the way in Montgomery County, which is like a little over 2 hours away. And I was like, well, not almost 2 hours. I say almost 2 hours. And I was like, I'm not going to court. I told her I'm not going to court. She was like, no, you got to go to court. I even talked to Brother Taj, and Taj Tariq Bey said that you need to go to court. I was like, Taj said that? You sure? She was like, yeah. And I was like, but I put the default judgment. And mind you, sometimes you can forget what and start to lean on other people's understanding, especially when they throw somebody out there like Taj saying that, Taj said don't go. Taj said to go. So I called the brother and he didn't answer. Called him again, he didn't answer. Then I called the female back, and she said, yeah, I just got off the court, off the phone with the clerk's office of the court, and I told them that you will be running late. And I said, why would you tell them that? Why would you go out your way to tell them that I was running late for court and that I would be on my way? And she said, because, I'm trying to save you from getting a bench warrant. So I was like, okay, red flags went up. I was like, all right, fine. So we went. And we were 2 hours late. We were 2 hours late. So everybody that had a case in front of McGann that day had to wait 2 hours before we got there. Now, anybody that's ever been to court, you know that they only give you a 15-minute window, 15 minutes to be late. After that, they're going to issue the bench warrant. So what does that tell you? There's something fishy going on, right? So yeah, it was a setup. And it most definitely was a setup, because this is what happened. And I'm telling you, I'm so glad I got this. You allowed me to do this. When I got to court, I went there with some of the brothers and sisters. And when I went in the courtroom, everybody was just sitting around chilling. And, McGann wasn't up there. And the clerk came to the door, because we were just standing there looking around. The clerk came to us and was like, are you all Butler and the other name? I don't want to put her name out there. And I was like, well, we're here for that case. And she was like, okay, I'll tell the judge now. Ran back, told McGann, and then they did the whole all rise and all of that. And I'm like, wait a minute, y'all really held the case for 2 hours? And then I'm looking around, and before they called the case, I seen some of the brothers and sisters that was there, in support, but I didn't see the female that called me and said that she contacted the clerk's office for me to come up there. She wasn't there. So I'm looking for her, and I sit down. I'm like, yeah, what is everybody else here for? Are they all here for this case? And they were like, nah, those people are here for their cases. They were just told to wait until you got here. I'm like, hold up, that don't make sense. So we went before McGann. They called the case up. We went, we said our thing, and that was it. And we were free to leave. And when we were leaving out of the courtroom, the sheriff, or one of the court deputies, or what are they called, bailiffs, opened the door and said, yes, have a nice day. And as we walked past, he pulled out his walkie-talkie and said something as he was looking at us. Now, I kind of glanced back, and you see my eyes big. I got big eyes, so I don't miss nothing. So I glanced back, and I peeped it. And then I'm walking down in the hallway, and it's a big hallway, and I see sheriffs like standing on one side and the other side, and they both got on their walkie-talkies at the same time while they were looking at me. One of them was like looking at me and then kind of looked away. And then the Washington Post news reporter, Dan Marsh, he met me right at the elevator and was like, hey, Mr. Butler, L, what do you call yourself? I was like, look, I'm not doing any interviews, blah, 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 blah. And something told me, pay attention to your surroundings, because he may be trying to throw you off, because everything looks weird, this one time that we're going to court. Mm-hmm. And we're on the elevator, and two sheriffs got on the elevator, one floor below where we were. They got on the elevator, they looked at me, said hi, and then we walked out of the elevator on the ground floor. They followed us all the way to the front door. Soon as I get outside, and like no more than 5 seconds, we see an unmarked car, and it was bounty hunters from Virginia. And they, pulled out a, one of those wanted posters. I didn't know they still did that. They pulled out a wanted poster with my picture on it, and it had the bounty under it and all. I was like, wait, what? Who? They was like, yeah, you Lamont Butler, you, and then me and everybody else. We were like, nah, they was like, well, this is your picture. I said, that looked like my picture, but I'm not Lamont Butler. And of course, they kidnapped me and this, that, and the third. So I was like, okay. And I'm in the back seat of these bounty hunters' cars, and they all Asiatic, stateless persons. One of them said, hey, man, look. He was sitting right beside me. He said, hey, man, look, I know everything that's going on, and don't worry, you're good, you're safe. And I said, what do you mean I'm safe, I'm good? He said, well, you're Moorish American, right? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, Islam. I know your mother. I said, you know my mother? how do you know my mother? He was like, yeah, I've been texting her. And then he showed me the text messages. And it was from another sister that's cool with the sister that told me to come to court. The sister that told me to come to court, that said, Taj said, go to court, she wasn't there. Her friend that she's cool with, she was there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read the text, I was in handcuffs. He let me read the text messages. When I read the text message, I read the name of who it came from. He locked the bounty hunter locked her in the phone and everything. And it was from the sister who was friends with the sister that told me come to court. She was there. And he was like, yeah, that's your mom, bro. I said, no, that's not my mother. So right then and there, I was revealed the setup.
The setup. And
yeah,
someone that looks like you.
Yeah. And so it was for a traffic case in Virginia. So I dealt with that and I got out. And now fast forward into what you were speaking about. When I went to trial, before trial, the original case that was filed back in March of 2013.
Would that be the Mansion case?
The Mansion case.
Do you want to, before you go there, do you want to share the
news clips?
Yes. You want to do let's do that.
Yeah, and let's see the
let's share that.
The slander. Hold on one second. Let me pull it up. All right, is it on?
Let me see. Let me add it to the string. Okay, here we are. Yeah.
All right. All right. Here's one of the news clips. It's from CBS. Let me blow it up.
You may not have heard of the Moorish Nationals, but police have members claim to follow Moorish science. It comes from a black religious group that's been around for nearly a century. Most of its members obey the law, but not everyone. Chip Reed looks at how some use their religion to justify the crime.
This 35,000 square foot mansion in an exclusive corner of Bethesda, Maryland, has 12 bedrooms, 17 bathrooms, and trees planted by President Clinton and Vice President Gore. On the market for nearly $6 million, it's not exactly a steal. So imagine real estate agent Jordan Feinberg's surprise when he learned someone had moved into the vacant property.
The owner calls me again and says, the neighbor called, there are people inside the house claiming they own the house. And I'm like, what?
Lamont Butler, a.k.a. Lamont Maurice L., claimed the mansion for himself. He even provided documents issued by the so-called Moorish National Republic to back it up.
It's a burglary in the purest sense.
Across the country, Butler and many other self-styled Moorish nationals have laid claim to property and status they say is lawfully theirs because their ancestors were here first. In Memphis, Tennessee, Tabitha Gentry staked a claim on this $3 million foreclosed home using heavy chains. Charged with trespassing, burglary, and theft, Gentry, who prefers the name Abka Ray Bey, says as a citizen of the Moorish American National Republic, that land is her land. And this man was arrested by police in Fayetteville, North Carolina, for interfering with a stolen car investigation. But his wife claims the arrest was illegal because he is a member of the Moorish nation.
He has diplomatic immunity. Why are y'all doing this?
Moors trace their beliefs to Noble Drew Ali, who founded the Moorish Science Temple in Chicago in 1925. With tens of thousands of followers, the faith borrows heavily from Islam. It also teaches that all Black Americans are Moorish Americans, descendants of an ancient Moroccan global empire, an idea some followers have taken one step further.
So you don't have to get a license plate or a driver's license. You can lay claim to property.
Spencer Dew, who studies the movement, says Moorish Americans have long taken pride in being American citizens, But as the group splintered over the decades, some offshoots abandoned that view.
But I also think we have some opportunistic individuals, some sort of lone wolf elements.
Jeff Fort is perhaps the most notorious movement member. The former leader of a violent Chicago street gang, he was convicted in 1987 of conspiring regime to blow up U.S. government buildings.
Kind of a public relations nightmare. The vast majority of Moorish communities in America are not involved in any of this sovereign citizen ideology, not involved in fraudulent behavior, not involved in criminal acts.
As for Butler, he eventually abandoned the Bethesda mansion, but he still faces charges of burglary, theft, and fraud. He's currently out on bond.
You know, everybody likes to look at a big, beautiful house, but usually you call a realtor to unlock the door for you.
For CBS This Morning, Chip Reed, Washington.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad you played that. I don't know who this some comment Wishel Zwies is, but they're saying so the whole Moorish thing is a fraud. No, it's not a fraud.
All right, so
we're not playing that show to show you that this is a fraud. We're showing you the extent. Well, yeah, we're showing you the extent of their fraud.
Right. As a matter of fact, I would like to counter what they said with proof, or what is known as a conclusive proof. So, as you heard, they said that Moorish Americans took pride in being American citizens. They didn't say citizens of the United States. So you got to listen to the narrative. You know, now that individual, that detective that was saying that, you know, we claim to be able to claim land and have a right to claim land and travel without driver's license and this, that, and the third. You know, that's the narrative that they're trying to create. But that case actually was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. Now, what I want to do is I want to pull up. I want to do the screen share again because I want to pull up the case information. I'm going to do that real quick for the naysayer that's in the chat. And for, you know, mostly for the brothers and sisters that was curious. So this is the original case. Can you see that, Dr. G?
I can't see, but let me see if we can make well, I'm just not good with my eyes, but I'm sure they can see it. Those who can see can see.
Okay. So this is the case information. If you was to go to Maryland Judiciary Case Search, you know, you put in that case number, you will see that the Montgomery County Circuit Court case, all of the charges, first-degree burglary, nully prosecute, conspiracy to commit first-degree burglary, nully prosecute, attempted theft, 100,000 plus, nully prosecute, fraud, poor identity info theft. I don't know whose identity I stole. You know, I'm Lamont Maurice, but nully prosecute. Nully prosecute is Moorish Latin. It means no prosecution. That is the Maryland way of saying dismissed. Now, the reason why they had to dismiss the case is because of res judicata. Res judicata means to stand by things judicially decided. And it's already been decided in the numerous cases that once jurisdiction is challenged, it must be proved to exist. Otherwise, the case cannot proceed, but they have to dismiss it for lack of jurisdiction. So for the naysayer, you can continue to believe that it's a hoax. They have something in store for you as well. But for everyone else that wanted the truth, that's the truth. The case was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. I didn't use, just also FYI, I didn't use any UCC process. I didn't use any administrative process or procedure. I didn't use anything other than the Constitution and the treaty.
Let me just ask you this, because many people were saying in the chat that they couldn't see it. That is on the website, on your website, that document?
Yes. If you go to
I'm going to put that up again. I'm going to put up your website. You can go to Brother Lamont's Enforce the Treaty of a Constitution .org, www.enforcetheconstitution.org, which is scrolling across the bottom, and you can see the video of the news coverage. The
web page is once you go on the website, the web page is you can go to Bethesda Mansion case and see it, or you can go to debt dispute services, and on that web page, what I actually did was I uploaded all of the various cases and the various disputes that I did for myself or that I help others do in regards to debt or cases. And those cases were dismissed. Among it was the Mansion case, and I actually have it right here too. This is Maryland case search, case information, right? I don't know if you can see that, but all of the charges. They were all dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. And also, one more thing. I recently got the certified copy of the affidavit of fact default judgment that ordered them to dismiss the case. I got it beginning of this week. Well, yesterday. No, was it yesterday? I think last week. But yeah. That is the default judgment that dismissed this big landmark case dealing with the mansion. So that settles that thought. Anybody thinking that I went to prison because I exercised my treaty right, because they really actually did all of that for people that didn't know. That was against all Moorish Americans. That wasn't just against me. That was to discourage anyone that tried to make the claim that I made, that Abkar Ray Bey made, and any other Moorish American made. They tried to discourage, because what happens is they can't live off of our birthright anymore. What happens is when you find out that you've been paying a dead pledge called a mortgage or otherwise deed of trust that never existed, and you make an adverse claim, the same adverse claim that I made to that property in Montgomery County is the same adverse claim you will make to your property that you're paying, or you're allegedly paying a mortgage for a month, which they don't have the right to sell you title to property. That's why when you look at the deed that you signed that you think that's title to your property, look at how it was conveyed to you. That paragraph in the beginning, it says that it was conveyed in fee simple. Fee simple is a feudal word. Fee simple in short is fee. Fee means feudal, which comes under feudal law, which means you're a feudal tenant. Fee simple title is color of title. It's not title. There's only two titles. That is allodial title and aboriginal title. And aboriginal title, of course, trumps allodial title. You only get allodial title when you purchase something with gold or silver coins. Now, that is like the truth, for the most part. Mm-hmm.
Well, back to, before you played the video clip. Now, when you went, because you did go, they did kidnap you for 5 years because they did something with that original case and something entirely separate. But again, when you went, I'm very, I guess I really wanted to get what you shared about the fact that what the administrative clerk said about you voluntarily.
Yeah.
And what, so we'll know.
Yeah. So the case was filed March 4th, 2013. the original Mansion case. What they did was, after I filed that default judgment, September was when the trial was set. Every time after I filed the default judgment, every single time that I came to court, it was voluntary. I didn't know that because I think they had 2 hearings after I filed that default judgment, and both the hearings I told them I wasn't coming back. But I was curious to see, if they were going to try to take it to trial, because I was like, all the other cases, when I filed the default judgment, they didn't go to trial. They dismissed the case. But what they did was in September, in the beginning of September, I believe September 3rd, the same month that trial was supposed to happen. Trial was September 17, 2013. Around September 3rd, they created a whole nother case number, filed the same charges that was in the case from March 4th. They filed those same charges in this new case. And what they did was they added additional charges. I think they added 2nd-degree burglary or something like that. And they said that they were going to have a hearing. It was a hearing set in Montgomery County Circuit Court, but the address wasn't 50 Maryland Avenue, Rockville, Maryland. It was the address of the old court that Montgomery County Circuit Court doesn't use anymore. It was a whole nother building that they don't even use. So I caught that. I went on Maryland case search because somebody contacted me and said, "Hey man, it looked like you got another charge with the same charges in another case on Maryland case search." I went on Maryland case search, saw that, and so I was like, okay, so they was gonna try to get me with a failure to appear. So we came and showed up to the court building and saw that it was a different address. So we went to the other court building and the doors were locked. So I was like confused. I was like, all right, well, what is this new case? Why is it the same charges? We didn't even do anything. Like we've been dealing with other cases this whole time. And on Tuesday, I believe it was a Tuesday, September 17th, the day that the trial was supposed to happen, what they did was the state's attorney motioned for all of her motions and evidences and all of that stuff to be consolidated with the old case. That she wanted the motion for the new case to be consolidated with the original case, and then to transfer all of her documents from the old case to the new case. And then she motioned to dismiss the old case, and it was granted. And all of that happened right before my eyes. I was just in attack mode, and it was like, I'm ready to challenge jurisdiction. And they motioned to move forward. And no, they also motioned for the bond, because we were out on bond. They motioned for the bonds to be transferred from the old case and new case. And then they dismissed the old case. So now we're in court. I'm in court for this new case and these new charges that I was never served on, but all of their documents is in this new case. None of my documents is in the new case. So they went forward with trial. And, of course, I kept objecting. I kept asking, like, how are y'all able to go to trial? And then, it was like 3-4 days. I think the 4th day, the 3rd day is when I found out that there was a different case number. I looked at the exhibits, and I was like, wait a minute, what case is this? And I asked Sakita, she didn't know. So after the hearing was over, we went to the clerk. And the clerk was like, it was a young guy, it was a student. He was like, yeah, the case was dismissed. The case that you all are talking about was dismissed back before trial started on Tuesday. He was like, you all didn't know that? Y'all was right there. And I was like, hell no, I didn't know that. What do you mean the case was dismissed? So what's this new case? And I put 2 and 2 together. I was like, wait a minute, is this the case that was in Maryland case search that had the same charge? I was like, wait a minute. So the clerk came out, because he was answering all my questions. He was helping me, and the clerk came out, the original clerk came out and was like, no, don't stop answering his questions. No, Mr. Butler, you need to talk to the judge tomorrow. If you have any questions, bring it to the judge. So now I'm worried because I'm like, okay, the original case was dismissed, but we're at trial for this whole other case that we never were served on. So I was, worried. Sakita was worried. I talked to a few of my relatives. They were worried because I was like, I don't have anything in that case number. So it's too late because this is the last day of trial tomorrow. We went to court and I asked, of course, I brought it up to McGann. I said, hey, McGann, what is this new case number all about? We were never served on these charges. What is this? And he was like, well, that's the case that you've been appearing to court for trial. And I was like, well, I was never served. He was like, okay, well, Mr. L, you're supposed to put that in writing. But you knew that already, Mr. L. So we're going to move forward. I was like, objection. No. We're not going to move forward. If I was never served, then I'm not supposed to be here. I'm making a special appearance under threat, duress, and coercion. He said, no, Mr. L, to the contrary, you're not making a special appearance. You've been voluntarily appearing all these days during trial. And he said that on the record. And the record could be retrieved by anybody in Montgomery County Circuit Court, unless, they changed I got the transcripts. I'm gonna upload the transcripts on my website, the audio transcript, in case they try to do some slick stuff. But yeah, he said that on the record. And I was like, all right, well, are we free to leave? Because we don't consent to this. We're not voluntarily appearing. He said, no, you can't leave because now you're in our jurisdiction. Now we got you. I was like, oh.
Which is significant for to know when you're being summoned to one of these tribunals.
Right. So the significance.
Now, I don't know. Now, is it voluntary in all instances, or what made yours?
It's two types of appearances. You got the general appearance, which is voluntary appearance. That means that you appear in court and you submit to the jurisdiction of the court, which ultimately means you waive your jurisdictional challenge. You can't object to the jurisdiction anymore after you make an appearance. Then you have special appearance. Special appearance is you come into court for the sole purpose of objecting to the sufficiency of the service of process, meaning you're claiming that it was improper service of process, or you're challenging the jurisdiction of the court, meaning you're not submitting to the jurisdiction, you're challenging it. So that's the two appearances, special appearance and general appearance. General appearance is voluntary. So, and it goes back with common sense. If you showed in writing that the court did not have jurisdiction, why are you coming back to court? The paperwork speaks for itself. And I learned that the first time I won my DC traffic court case, I called them and I told them I wasn't coming back to court. Now, of course, I got the 3rd degree at the time, I was 28. So my mother, my father, a few other people were like, man, you need to go to court, you tripping. And they're gonna issue a bench warrant. And I said, look, I'm not going to court. I sent my default judgment in, I sent my writ of error in, and I ain't going to court because they don't, they showed me they didn't have jurisdiction. It only took me 4 times to make 4 special appearances. And the 4th time I told them I wasn't coming back to court. And I didn't show, and they dismissed the case. And that's because of common law. Common law derives from common sense. So if you send a communication in writing to a venue showing proof that they don't have the authority to act upon whatever subject matter, or to assert authority over you, or to assert authority over even the territory, that's personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, and territorial jurisdiction, then no, you should not be going back to that venue. Otherwise, you're just voluntarily coming and to the lion's den, and you're the feast. So I learned that firsthand in that case. And yeah, he said that I've been voluntarily appearing. So what ended up happening, this was the outcome of the new case. They said guilty for all the charges because we had nothing filed in the case. They sent us to jail for 55 days pending sentencing. While I was in jail, this was the first time I had to handwrite all of my jurisdictional challenges on an affidavit. I hand wrote my I did a whole lawful notice and judicial proclamation, handwritten. I did the jurisdictional challenge, the quo warranto, the affidavit of fact, writ of quo warranto, handwritten. I did all of that while we were in jail because I've never been to prison before and I didn't plan on to go. And they were like trying to give me and her 60 years. So I was like, hell no, I ain't going to prison. So I'm doing those documents, and when they brought us up for sentencing 55 days later, what McGann did was he announced this before he brought the jury back in. No, the jury's gone. He announced this before everybody came in the courtroom because we were detained. They brought us up in the back from the back door of the courtroom. So we're in the courtroom before everyone else. We're in a holding cell. They brought us out of the holding cell, and McGann told me and Sakita, as well as the state's attorney, that although the jury made their decision, I have the last say so. So he brought, and I don't know if that's on record, because he allowed everybody to come in later on, and then they did the whole all rise and all of that stuff. So I don't think that part was on record. And what he did was, well, first I was objecting, and I was like, look, you not sending me to jail. Y'all don't have jurisdiction. I don't care what you say, and people were laughing. I pulled out a big trash bag with all my documents and copies of stuff that I filed on the record and all of that. And I'm just going through documentation after documentation. I was like, look, we're going to be here all day if y'all want, because y'all not sending me to no prison for 60 years. Y'all ain't sending me or her to prison because y'all don't have the jurisdiction to. And McGann said, okay, Mr. L, relax. We're not going to send you to prison, okay? We're not sending you to prison today. And I paused for a moment. I was like, okay, I know they play word games. So you said you're not going to send me to prison today. Maybe you're going to send me to prison tonight. Maybe you're going to send me to prison tomorrow. So I said, nah, objection. You not sending me to prison at all. He said, Mr. L, you're not going to go to prison at all. And I paused. And then Sakita, tapped me. She was like, just listen. I was like, all right. And he was like, Mr. L, I'll give it to you. You're smart. You're intelligent. I see you got your girlfriend here. She's following your lead. She looks up to you. But you make it really hard for people to like you. And I was thinking in my head, I don't give a damn if you like me or not. I don't know you. You don't know me. And you not sending me to prison. I don't care. I throw chairs. I go off in here. So, because, this is my first time, But he was like, let me allow the state's attorney to speak because, I have to go. We have to move forward, even though you objected to the court's jurisdiction, and we're going to duly note that jurisdictional objection. However, I have to allow her to speak. I said, all right, but you're not sending me to prison. He said, Mr. L already answered that question. So he moved to her, and she said all of what she said. And then, to my surprise, he started to pick apart their alleged prosecution. And he was like, okay, first of all, they're here for the charge first-degree burglary. Now, the state does admit that there were no signs of forced entry on the property, and there was nothing in the property to be stolen. So how did they commit first-degree burglary? And she was stuck. She was like, well, Your Honor, he used fraudulent paperwork to claim the property, da-da-da-da-da. He was like, yeah, that doesn't fit the crime. He said the charge doesn't fit the crime at all. And then he said, now the second charge is theft over $100,000. What did they steal over $100,000 if there was no furniture in the property? And she paused again. She was like, well, Your Honor, they stole the house. And I started laughing. I laughed. No one else found it funny but me and Sakita. And we bust out laughing. And he was like, so you're saying they stole a house. How exactly did they steal the house? She said, well, like I said, Your Honor, fraudulent paperwork, da-da-da-da. He was like, yeah, that's not theft over $100,000. So he was just going down the charges and picking apart their prosecution, like I said. And then also he was like, it sounds like these young people basically went into an abandoned property that was open. And she was like, yes, Your Honor, but they didn't have permission. And he said, okay, well, who's the previous owner? She said, Rashid Chandra. He said, okay, does Rashid Chandra have anything in the property that shows that he still has interest in the property? And she said, well, no, Your Honor. And he also did not complete the criminal complaint form or something like that. He said, okay, so you just added to my point. Not only was there nothing in the property to be stolen, and Rashid Chandra didn't have any interest in the property anymore. She was like, no, Your Honor, objection. He was selling the property. He said that furthers my point. He was selling it, which means he has no interest in it. But what he really was saying, just pause that for a moment. What he's really saying is, because this is what I studied, the property is abandoned. Technically, any property in law, any property that has a deed that was conveyed in fee simple is considered abandoned property, because all of the property in North America is escheated. It's escheated by way of abandonment. And it's escheated not even to the government, but to a private foreign corporation that's acting as a legitimate government. So any property that's not owned allodially or by aboriginal title by any other Moorish Americans on this land is considered abandoned property, especially if you're trying to sell the property and you took all of your property, your furniture and everything out of the property. So it's considered abandoned property. But anyway, he said, yeah, it was abandoned property that he walked in. It sounds like it could have been a trespassing charge, but I don't even see how it would have been a trespassing charge. So he said, this is what we're going to do, because the jury already made their decision. What we're going to do is we're going to offer the defendants 5-year unsupervised probation. So me and Sakita both said at the same time, offer denied. We are not doing no 5-year probation. We're not doing none of that. We're not going to prison. We're not doing none of that. And he said, okay. Although you denied the offer, we're still going to offer it to you so that you can sign it. And I thought about it, and I remember Taj saying that, they may try to give you a window, and it ain't a window for me. It's a window for them, because they'll never admit that they don't have jurisdiction. Right. So, to the open public. So what they did was they gave us the instruments. We signed under threat, duress, and coercion. We signed it big as hell so that they couldn't misconstrue it to be anything else. Under threat, duress, and coercion is what we wrote. Without prejudice, all rights reserved, and those specific UCC codes that deal with that particular thing. And the state's attorney, Sherry Koch, let me say her name, Sherry Koch, foreign European female. She said, Your Honor, the head state's attorney, whose name is John McCarthy, the head state's attorney in Montgomery County, he's still the state's attorney. He came up to his assistant state's attorney, Sherry Koch, and whispered in her ear while we were signing the documents. And then I gave a copy to Sakita so that she could sign it the same way I signed it. And then they gave the original to the administrative clerk, McGann. And when he whispered in her ear, Sherry Koch said, Your Honor, the state wishes to confirm that the defendants did in fact sign the contracts. And when McGann got it, when he got my copy, he said, yeah, it looks like they signed it UCC. And then looked at her and said, shrugged his shoulders. So I peeped it. I looked at him and I looked at her and I saw her whole face get red. She squeezed the tray that she had, with the projector and all her little stuff on it. She was squeezing it. And then, her legs started shaking a little bit. She was upset. And anxiety started to kick in. So I was like, what? All right, so does that mean when he said UCC, because I'm not signing anything UCC, but when he said that, what does that mean? That must have been a little code. So they escorted me out of the courtroom, and Sakita was last. Everybody else, all the news reporters and all of the people that were there slowly but surely started getting up and leaving out of the courtroom. And a few of the Moors that came to support me, they said that when the state's attorney, Sherry Koch, was leaving out of the courtroom, once she got to the second set of doors, she fell on the ground and started crying. She bust out crying all over the ground. Yep. And all of her colleagues and John McCarthy came and they started to console her. And I was like, damn, she was crying because what, she lost the case because she's embarrassed? No, that's not the reason. The reason was when I talked to Taj Tariq Bey over the phone, he said she was crying because now she has to pay those bonds. All of those bonds, the payment bond, performance bond, and the bid bond, all of those bonds that were sold to third-party investors and traded on the stock market, instead of me having to pay for it with my time going to prison, which is what a commitment is. They're saying that you committed yourself. Because I didn't do that, she has to pay for it.
So what you're saying is that they had already pre-made contracts based on a maybe 60-year sentence for both of you all, and now that it's now 5 years, that's 55 years of he's not going to be able to meet that.
No. What they did was he said that McGann, before we left, he said that no, he didn't say this. The record says because we didn't accept the parole, the unsupervised probation or parole, whatever, the record said 55 days time served. So in Montgomery County, in the new case, it said guilty for first-degree burglary, theft of 100,000, conspiracy to commit first-degree burglary, conspiracy to commit theft over 100,000, and fraud. They said 55 days time served for that. Now, the original case, which is what I showed, was dismissed. This is the case that was all over the news. The new case with the same charges was not the case that was all over the news. The reason why I went to prison for 5 years is because of a whole nother case in a whole nother county called Charles County. What ended up happening was, I'm going to backtrack. While the Montgomery County case was pending, there was a family near the Charles County territory that was interested in exercising their right to claim property, by way of inheritance in Charles County. And I assisted them with it, but I warned them. I said, listen, first of all, you shouldn't join this movement just to try to claim land, just to get a free house. It's not about that. I said, you ever heard the verse in the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom of follow? I said, if you study the basics, the foundation of the purpose, starting with the purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which was prior, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, which was a civic organization, and along with the religious organization, then you will know that once you get your house in order, everything else follows. You don't have to just try to run out there and claim land and all that. No, first of all, you need to know who you are and how to defend yourself. Before you can exercise a right, you got to know how to defend it. And I gave him that caveat, and I told him, I said, look, I can start you all off, but from there, where I start you, that's where you have to finish the study. And they didn't study. So they moved in a property in Charles County, and some police were called. They were in there for I think 2.5 months, something like that. And the police were called, and the family, 2 of the family members came to get me to come over there to stand on their square, to basically defend them. And I was like, you all just ask for a warrant. They need a search warrant. If they're coming to the property and demanding anything from you, then that's called a search. They need a search warrant. Ask for a search warrant. They don't have a search warrant, politely close the door. They didn't do that. They were scared. So I felt kind of compelled, along with other reasons that I don't want to speak about. So I went over there with Sakita, and we went over there as witnesses to basically witness whatever incident was going on. And I asked the policy enforcers for a warrant, a search warrant. They didn't have it. They said they had complaints from other neighbors on people being in the house and doing things, and they didn't belong in there. And then they asked me and Sakita, well, are you all in that house too? We're like, nah, we just came from around the corner from another property, but that's neither here nor there. You need a warrant, so they called for backup. Backup came, it was probably like 15 police out there, or, with the sheriff department out there in Charles County. And one of the detectives got out the car and he yelled out, Lamont and Sakita. And we all looked, and he was like, what are you all doing out here? And I was like, well, who the hell are you? And he was like, well, I'm Detective Boggs. His name is Detective Boggs, Richard A. Boggs, foreign European. And he was like, well, weren't you all just all over the news in Montgomery County? What are you all doing here? So I was like, look, what are they doing here? What are you all doing? You all don't have a warrant. Y'all can't come up upon us and question us like that. And he was like, well, is this your property? Are you claiming this property too? I was like, no, I'm not claiming this property. But this is their property, and they're demanding that you all have a warrant. Me and Sakita are simply witnesses, and we are friends with these people. They're Moors just like us, as far as citizenship is concerned. Now you need a warrant. They end up surrounding us, and the white shirts, the supervisors, they were on the scene, the lieutenants, the captains, and all of that. They huddled around a car while all of the peons surrounded us, and they told us that we could not leave. And I was like, wait, now you're detaining us. You need a arrest warrant. This is an arrest. They was like, no, you're not an arrest. You're just being detained. Like, I'm stupid, and the word detained don't mean arrest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, everyone, anybody got a pen and paper? So one of the brothers pulled out a pen and paper. I said, brother, walk around and get everybody's badge number, the name and their badge number. All of the policy enforcers started to put their hand over their badge. So I was like, okay, so y'all are doing something. What are y'all doing? And it was 45 minutes, and I had it recorded on a spy camera that I had. 45 minutes later, the lieutenants and the captains came from their huddle, and I asked one of the peons, I said, hey, who are they on the phone with? What is all this about? And they were like, oh, they were on the phone with the state's attorney's office. We were all like, the state's attorney's office, so y'all are detaining us to ask the state's attorney, what should y'all do with us? And he was like, well, I don't know. And then they came up to us, the supervisors came over, and they were like, listen, everybody needs to show us state issued ID, or else we're locking everybody up for 4th degree burglary. And we was like, 4th degree burglary? What is 4th degree burglary? And they said, because you're standing in this neighbor's yard. Now, they forced us to stand in the yard, right? So I said, what the hell? Nah, y'all forced us, and furthermore, you need a warrant. They was like, listen, if you don't show us a state issued ID, then we're locking you up. So that's a threat. So I said, okay, under threat, arrest, and coercion, hey, let's put out our IDs. And we pulled out our nationality cards, and they said that's not ID. So they kidnapped us. And when they kidnapped us, they did the whole bond processing, and I told everybody sign all rights reserved and sign without prejudice under threat, arrest, coercion, blah, blah, blah. We did all of that. And they threw us back in the news, but it wasn't as big as it was with the Montgomery County case. So now there's 2 cases. There's a Montgomery County case, which a lot of people know about. Then there's a Charles County case, which only a few people know about. And we were going back and forth. We were being transferred back and forth to Charles County to Montgomery County. And once we finished with the Montgomery County case, we got transferred to Charles County. Now I'm moving forward to where I was before. We got transferred to Charles County, and we were waiting to go up to what they call a preliminary hearing. Preliminary is dealing with the evidence to see if it's enough evidence to go to trial. The only way it can go to the only other way it can go to trial is if the defendant or the defendant's attorney demands for trial. So because they didn't have any evidence against us, and because of our jurisdictional challenge, as well as our special appearance in our proper person, they needed to come up with a scheme to try to gain jurisdiction, just like Montgomery County. So Montgomery County scheme was to swap out the case numbers at the last minute. Charles County, this was their scheme. We're waiting in the bullpen to be brought to court. They end up, and thank God my mom was in there. They end up having a public defender come in and file some documents with a forged signature of Lamont Butler. And he demanded for a speedy trial, and he asserted on the record that I did not want to come to court, that I wanted to have him stand in my stead. And my mom, you know, and while we were in the bullpen, the policy enforcers told us, yeah, the court said that they didn't need y'all today. We're like, what? Okay, well, so what are we doing? They shipped everybody else to court and left us in the bullpen. They was like, yeah, they said they don't need you all, so I guess you all can just go back to your units. So I went back, called my mother. My mother was like, I didn't know you got a public defender. It's like, I don't have a public defender. What are you talking about? She was like, and why did you say you didn't want to go to court? Why aren't you coming to court? I was like, I didn't say that. She said, well, you have a public defender, and he said you didn't come to court. I said, no, that's wrong. So we contacted the courthouse. The clerk's office said, yes, we have your application for a public defender. And I was like, I ain't signed no damn application for no public defender. So that's when I found out Charles County's scheme on how that they were going to try to get jurisdiction. They forged my signature. And they told me that I had the right to the administrative clerk to let her know that I didn't never request for a public defender. And what they did, I did. And what they did was they set a hearing, a status hearing. And they brought me up, and the public defender literally, soon as they called the case, they brought me up, and I'm in shackles. I'm still like this. I can't move. And the public defender came and stood beside me, and he said, yes, forgot what his name was. He said, such and such here on behalf of the defendant. I said, objection. You're not in here on behalf of anybody. You know, even though I'm not the defendant, you're not here on behalf of me, the defendant, nobody. And Burgunya, her name is Amy J. Burgunya. That was the acting administrative clerk presiding over this case. She said, sir, you can't speak right now. Now's not your time to speak. So I'm going back and forth with her. And she said, okay, well, let me just get the situation clear, because I got your documentation sent to my chambers. That's why we're having a status hearing. So let me speak to the public defender to clear this matter up. Are you representing the defendant? He was like, well, let me go to recess and talk to the defendant. So he pulled out his briefcase, opened it up, and pulled out the document that had the forged signature on it. He said, so this isn't he whispered to me, this isn't your signature right here. And I yelled out, you know, loud enough for the record to hear. I said, you know, damn well, that's not my signature, and I ain't meet you a day in my life. So stop playing. And then somebody stood up in the crowd and said, Your Honor, I'm such and such. I'm with the Office of the Public Defender. Since the defense does not want the help or the assistance of the Office of Public Defender, can we withdraw the application? And the public defender that was standing beside me took the application and gave it to him. And I said, whoa, objection. I want a copy of that. That's proof of forgery and fraud. And so I was trying to reach for it, but I'm like this. And she said, Burgunya said, oh, well, hold on. You said you all want to withdraw it? And they said, yes. He said, okay, well, it's withdrawn. And then she looked at me and said, sorry, but you know, it's already been withdrawn from the record. So we're going to move forward. I'm like, hold on. So y'all just witnessed forgery. I said, y'all going to move forward. And I just told y'all on the record that that's not my signature. That's proof of forgery and fraud. And she said, oh, well, they withdrew it already. We got to move forward. So we're going to call the next case. And we're going to withdraw the public defender from the case. So they withdrew him, but they didn't withdraw any of his documents. So eventually I got out on bond, and I was trying to figure out how I could relieve myself from those documents or from all of what was filed. I went to the courthouse. I tried to look at the case. They were like, no, you can't see the case jacket because it's going to trial, so it's in the judge's chambers. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to withdraw the instruments that was filed by the public defender by way of fraud and forgeries? They were like, well, we don't know. So it went to trial. That's how that Charles County case went to trial. And we just objected, and we didn't participate in the trial because we didn't want to waive our special appearance and jurisdictional challenge. So that's why we didn't participate. So they literally railroad us to in the trial. And what the jurors said, I wanted to say this too. There was a juror in that trial that worked at State Department with my mother at that time, and they saw each other in the hallway. And the lady said, you know, I know your son and his girlfriend did not commit those charges because all of the police got on the stand and told different stories. And the one witness that got on the stand, which was a friend of the family that I was assisting, she said that, I was there. So, but I'm telling you from the point of the juror, she said, yeah, we know she got on the stand and said that your son and his girlfriend was claiming the property as their property only because she was being charged. Because now what they do is the state's attorney, when they use a witness against other witnesses or a co-defendant against other co-defendants, they have to fully disclose everything as to the negotiation that they had with the state's attorney. So the negotiation was her case was going to be put on a stet docket. A stet docket meaning it was going to suspend it. And while it's being suspended, they're going to use her as a witness against us. And that's what they did. And the juror, all the jurors peeped that. But she said, we know that that your son and his girlfriend was innocent. However, because they did not participate during the trial, the jury instructions instructed us to only make the decision based off of the evidence that was brought against them. And the only evidence, which wasn't evidence, the only evidence that they used was a piece of paper, a legal size paper that showed the family or one of the family members making adverse claim to the property. And me and Sakita and all the other family members signed it as witnesses. So my mom said to the juror, well, did you read the what was said beside his signature or any of their signatures? She was like, no, we didn't read that. And she said, yeah, they signed as the witness. They witnessed the person, the affiant, signed the document. That's how they signed. They were just witnesses to the document. And she was like, oh, we didn't know that and all that, right?
You are one party to it. You were witnesses. Oh, yeah.
Right. We were witnesses, but that's still not proof of first-degree burglary and theft over 100,000. And that's when my mom was like, well, the jury instructions said that we had to basically find them guilty because, you know, anything, it's a term called admission by silence. So if a claim is made against you and you don't rebut the claim, you don't defend against the claim, then that's your admission. Your silence is your admission to the claim. However, our claim against them was not answered. Our claim was they didn't have jurisdiction. And that's why we did not participate, because had we participated, we would have waived our jurisdictional challenge. So that is why we got forced to do 5 years of imprisonment for something we had nothing to do with. And the family in that case, what I was told by this guy that visited me that said he was the FBI, but he didn't show no badge. He was with another agency. He never disclosed it though. But him and a few other Moors told me that the family, they scared the family out of their nationality. They basically negotiated a deal to where they would drop the charges from first-degree burglary to third-degree burglary, and they would only give them 5-year unsupervised probation. In exchange for this, they cannot call themselves Moorish American anymore. They could not call themselves, they were all L's. They could not call themselves L's anymore. They had to drop the L's off the end of their names, and they could not reserve their rights. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that important. It was that important to,
That's how important nationality is.
That's how important. And I think, I haven't even been looking at the comments. I've been listening to you. There's just so many people listening. I want to get, we have about 25 minutes. And what I want to do is move forward to where you are today and what you've been doing. When did you come? When did you, return? And what have you been doing since? And how can, are you available to assist, in other situations? I know I see on your site about debt and so forth. But for instance, I know there's a sister that's faithfully on our various lives, and she's dealing with jurisdiction when it comes to they've taken her baby. Cases like this. I mean, she's, so I mean, the baby was not born in a hospital, and I don't know what the whole circumstances, but that I would assume that that's a jurisdictional matter,
right? To
just take a child, because we know that they're doing crazy stuff, with our children and so forth. But what have you been doing since, and what services or assistance? And I know you're doing some health. You're an entrepreneur too, because I can't wait to get my.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's in route. It's en route. But before we get there, okay. What have you been doing? You can include that towards the end of it, and how can I've been putting up your information. I'll put it back so they can when get to your website, 2 contact you. But I'm like I said, they didn't know what they were doing, because those 5 years were not only I'm assuming. There was a brother like this when I was still asleep and pastoring, who ended up going to prison, and we got him out when the time finally came. But before we ended up, storming the courtroom and using our whatever we called it, different energy. Then he was in there. Well, in that case, he was getting people saved. I mean, I'm in a different mindset, but you were probably in there helping the brethren, that were in there, and that was probably they probably couldn't wait to get you out of there, because you were waking up a lot of folk.
Yeah, they put a virus in their system, because it got to the point where we were doing mock court in prison, and like it was gang members, Caucasians, NOI, what is it, the Pan-African movement, Hebrew Israelites. All of us was coming together on Sunday whenever we met for Sunday class with the Moorish Science Temple of America. They would all come together because the acting sheik of that territory allowed me to teach civics and to establish a mock court venue. So we were doing mock court, and I was teaching people about, basically all of the civic side of this movement, and as well jurisdictional issues, and just basically giving them concepts or whatever. And then we had 3 people that stood there, that tried to stand there square. It was only one brother that stood there square. That was my brother Ozzy Wiggins Bay. He didn't let me move past jurisdiction, so he did good. But one thing I did when I was in there was I was experimenting. So to me, that was law school. It was a hard lesson, because I also learned that I can't stand on other people's squares and try to defend them per se when their karmic debt comes around, because that's actually what happened. But it did me justice. I met a few brothers in there that I'm still in contact with. One of the brothers, I'm at his gym right now, Global Sport Taekwondo Academy, and that's brother Charles O'Neill Smith Bay and brother Deal, and they've been helping me out a great deal. So it benefited me in the long run. And like you said, I was able to study. And one of the things I did in my study was I drafted a writ of habeas corpus release order, an actual release order, and I signed it as the judge. And this is going to be interesting because I'm not the only person that can do this, that has the power to do this. We all have the power. Per the 9th and 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights, I signed it as the judge, ordering for my own release. And when I sent it off to Charles County Circuit Court, they filed it and entered it into the record as a release order. What ended up happening was I got a process server, one of the Moorish brothers, to get a certified copy of it and send it to the commissioner for the Department of Public Safety, basically for the prison. And they put me in segregation because they didn't know if it was real or not. And they thought that I actually had somebody copy and paste, file stamp, and true test copy on the document until they found out, oh, it was really a release order. And he signed as a judge. They was like, look, man, the case manager came down, was like, look, I've been working here for over 20 years and I ain't never seen no prisoner sign his own release order, and the courts recognized it. But instead of releasing me, they transferred me all the way out Eastern Shore where I had to sit a whole nother year. So, and that's only because I didn't have any Moorish Americans that were competent enough, that I knew anyway, that were competent enough to get me out. So, but while I was in there, I talked to the brother Taj Sharik Bey just to clear up anything that, because I heard while I was in there that people were saying, yeah, Taj Sharik Bey abandoned Lamont. No, Taj ain't abandoned Lamont. Lamont was talking to Taj, and Taj was sending me tools to study while I was in there, because that was law school for me. I was in the Decimal Crips. That was law school. And so he ain't abandoned nothing. But eventually I got out, and the commissioner basically recognized my status, but then tried to assert that I didn't have diplomatic immunity, which I don't, because we're not diplomats unless we are doing a mission. If we're on a mission, then yeah, that's diplomacy. But anyway, now that I'm out, I got some things brewing. That some things I don't want to talk about, some things I'll share. I am setting up a workshop on how to dispute debt using the Constitution and treaty. And you can go on the website enforcetheconstitution.org to be on the lookout, because I'm gonna put an announcement up on when everyone can sign up. I also have been assisting people with their cases. One brother, Ryan Cartwright, he's one of the brothers that meets up with us in the territory. He was going through a foreclosure, and I showed him how to challenge jurisdiction and issue writ of error, default judgment, and all of that. And then they couldn't foreclose on the property. They lost the case, and he's still in his property. A few other people I've helped. So I've been teaching and assisting, but the one thing I've tried to avoid was actually doing it for people and standing on the document for people, because I learned that hard lesson. I don't need to learn that again. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. And also, I started a consulate in this territory, and in the Maryland, DC territory, because what we need to understand, yes, this is Morocco. This is the Moroccan Empire. This is actually, North America is actually the heartland of the Moroccan Empire. However, this land is under binding international treaty law, i.e. the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1836 between the United States of North America and the Moroccan Empire. That means there's two jurisdictions operating on this land. So if one jurisdiction that had the authority to exercise consular jurisdiction within Morocco, and they gave up that consular jurisdiction in 1956, and I posted all of this on the website on Consular Affairs webpage. You can see that. If they gave up their consular jurisdiction in Morocco, then we can exercise consular jurisdiction in their republic state territories because it's jurisdiction. We're not talking land, we're talking jurisdiction. And when you even read the United States Department of State Consular Notification and Access Manual, you can put that in Google. It's called Consular Notification and Access. It's the series is 2018. It's a manual. When you go to the questions and answers, it'll say, let me I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Wait, let me do the screen share. No, I'm gonna put it up on this because I want them to see it on the screen. I'm gonna do the screen share real quick, Dr. G.
It may be a little small, but we'll show them the best. It is on the website though too, right?
Not yet. I didn't upload it yet.
You showed me the binder.
Yeah, the binder. I don't have the binder, but
okay.
Oh, here it is. I don't have the binder with me, but this is it right here. So the questions about foreign national. The question is, who is a foreign national? The answer, for the purposes of consular notification and the instructions in this manual, a foreign national is any person who is not a U.S. citizen, period. Then it says, there are rare situations in which a person is neither a U.S. citizen nor a foreign national, i.e. is stateless. In such a case, consular notification requirements do not apply. So, foreign national. Foreign national is anyone that is not a U.S. citizen. Anyone with a nationality. So when you hear the word foreign, don't think distance, think jurisdiction, because there is two jurisdictions that's operating on this land. No different than if you got the building, then you got Walmart, then you got McDonald's inside of Walmart. When you walk in Walmart, you're in Walmart. But when you walk in McDonald's, which is within Walmart, you're in McDonald's. Now, McDonald's is exercising, just for conceptual purposes, if there's a dispute between a Walmart employee and a McDonald's employee, then McDonald's will exercise consular jurisdiction within Walmart territory. And if McDonald's was to give up their consular jurisdiction, Walmart can now exercise consular jurisdiction in McDonald's, even though the building is Walmart's building. So that's the misunderstanding of what consular jurisdiction is, because people are looking at it, the definition of consular court being a court of a foreign country within the territory of another country. And the only people that can establish consular courts is the foreigners. No, that's the venue, that's the platform. So I was exercising consular jurisdiction back in 2012 and 2013. That's how I won a lot of the cases. So consular jurisdiction is the remedy. That's the remedy. That's where we get remedy. We don't get it in their courts. There is no federal court. FYI for everybody. The federal court, the place they call federal court is not federal court. And even when they were operating in a Republican form, those courts were Article I courts. They were not Article III courts. Congress actually never established an Article III court and Article III judges for Article III courts. There is no Article III courts other than the Supreme Court. All of those federal courts that people are getting their cases removed to and remanded back to state court, that's because they are all administrative corporations acting as administrative agencies under what is called the Administrative Procedures Act of 1934, which came after the bankruptcy. So they created a alleged fourth branch of government. That's because it's not government. So they're taking you outside of your jurisdiction. Your jurisdiction is consular jurisdiction whenever disputing or having a controversy with a citizen of the United States. And that's what we have to understand. The power is with us.
And I don't know whether I don't know whether you can expound on this or not, or even if you know about it. But I recently became aware of a brother, and I'm not sure if he's in the Texas territory or what, but he was incarcerated for, I don't know what the period of time was, but he was able to take the two cases that, he was, incarcerated under, two of the cases rather, and file some 1099 something, and ended up with, like, in his case, maybe 700 and some thousand notes, because he filed these 1099s on the bonds for the cases under which he was incarcerated.
Yeah, because you can do, that's the what he probably did was what is known as a whistleblower form that the IRS created. Because what they do is, when you sign the appearance bond, this is what they do. As soon as they kidnap you, let's just say you get kidnapped for a traffic violation, right? And you don't have your driver's license. I think they say that's a so-called arrestable offense. They kidnap you, then they hold you hostage for profit so that you can sign this mortgage called an appearance bond and stand as surety for the nom de guerre, the straw man. That's a business transaction. Remember, they're only here for commercial purposes only, and friendship, supposed to be anyway. And now that they got that appearance bond with your signature, what they do now is they enter, or if they fill out, what is called a bid bond. So they're bidding on the case. And the platform that they bid on is called platform investments. If you all have never heard of that before, it's called platform investments. That's the platform, or that's the venue that they start to create these bonds, doing double bookkeeping. You only see the public book record of the case. You don't see the private. The private is where they issue the bid bond, the performance bond, and the payment bond. And they're supposed to have to pay the tax on those bonds, and they don't pay the tax. They get away with it. And of course, the agents of IRS, the Inquisition Revenue Services, know this, but it's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. So you have to be able to prove it. And what the brother probably did was he filled out the 1099A, which is the acquisition or abandonment form. Then he filled out the 1099C, which is the cancellation form to cancel the debt. Then he filled out the 1099 OID, which is the original issue discount form, and the 1090, I believe, the 1098 form. And he also filled out the whistleblower form. Now, how to fill it out? I've people would sent me some processes on how to do that, but I pretty much wanted to stick to the Constitution and treaty because that's easy. It's real simple. But he filled it out. What they do is they fill it out, because I looked into it. They fill it out. They do an investigation, and if they have a finding, they will give you a percentage of whatever finding that they have. So that's probably what the brother did.
Okay. Because there are a lot of folks that have had a lot of bonds placed on them that if that's the case, they need to probably blow the whistle. I remember once getting a traffic stop and an appearance, the invitation to appear. And I was a public official, and it was interesting. After he wrote the ticket, and I wasn't speeding. It was a bunch of folks, but I had a red sports car at the time, and they told me that sports car was going to attract attention, and it did. And it was on a snowy day night, and I certainly wasn't going 42 in a 25-mile zone hour with ice. I was barely creeping, but other people were going, and I pulled over thinking that the lights were for somebody else, and I'm the one, because I was going slow enough to get.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah, so I didn't say. He goes back. He said, "Do you know I pulled you over?" No, I don't. So he goes back, and he comes back with this, piece of paper, and then something in my head said, "Pull out your ID," because I was the director of how I worked for the same people he did. I was a department head. So I pull out my ID card, and he goes, "You should have showed me that first. Like, I wouldn't have written the ticket, but I've already."
What territory is this?
Delaware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he said I should have showed it to him first. So when I went to work, and of course his boss, the police, police commissioner, and I are department heads, So I was like, "Look, I was not speeding, blah, 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 blah." He's like, "Just just show up. So go, because I had to go. And so I go in the evening, like a couple of days after it happened, to the court or the ministry, whatever the hearing. And there's nobody there but me and the now I know clerk. And so he offers me a PBJ. I'm telling him, I'm not guilty. And I'm thinking, I'm so naive. I'm thinking peanut butter and jelly. Because
I was just about to say a PBJ.
I said peanut butter and jelly. This is really what I said. He said, he said, plea before judgment. That's what it stands for.
Okay.
And I said, well, what's that? Oh, he says, you just pay. You'll pay this fee, and we won't judge whether you were speedy or not. And I was like, no.
Wait a minute. You said a plea before judgment?
PBJ, plea before judgment, is what I was offered.
Yeah, you could have did a jurisdictional plea, and it wouldn't be really plea because you're not pleading. You could have jurisdictional.
This was the offer. This is the offer, and so I knew, like, no, I wasn't going to do that. So they give me a paper. I had to go sit out there, and it says released on OR, on recognizance. I didn't know I was being held, but I, took it back to work, and I gave it to his boss, police commissioner, police chief, whatever he is. And I was like, look. And so by the time court came up again, which is about a month or so, half later, I show up. I sit there for about 15 minutes. They come out and they tell me the case is dismissed. I never went back in before them again, because he probably told them, don't do this. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is, how many people actually don't have that ability, and even when they're in the right, and they get railroaded into, stuff like that. And that was my first experience. I mean, the only time I've only been to court, like, it's like, plea before judgment. So what you do is offer people a deal to pay up and not get, I don't know what the advantage what I wouldn't have had court or what it was, but it just seemed, and then it made sense what Grand Sheik had been talking about. It's a venue where it's financial. They're extracting, or not necessarily extracting, but they're basically robbing people in this thing called the court. Yeah,
extortion.
Yeah, extorting. But you are doing some other weird, like, I mean, I could always go over a few minutes, and I will, because I want you to tell the viewers about what you're doing now with regard to, because everybody's talking about CMOS, and you're doing CMOS, but you have a unique source of and showed me something with regard to CMOS that I wasn't aware of, because I was just thinking that I know all CMOS is not created equal, but when you showed me these, like what it really from Trinidad, what the CMOS looks like when it's untampered with and it's growing in its natural state. Uncultivated, and the benefits of not having all of the cultivation it adds to it. You have, and this is available on your website, right? But can you tell us a little bit about it? Because I can't wait not only to use it for myself, but to put some in my little natural drinks for my dad, who's in a nursing home, who's holding on after a month after they said he was only going to be here a matter of a couple of days. And I'm thinking, I'm going to take my dad some of this CMOS that I'm getting. But you said this CMOS doesn't even have a fishy.
Nope. And no fishy taste, no nothing, no salt, no sand. Real quick, it was a question that stood out to me. Sister CJ Bay, she said, are you saying we need a Moorish consulate here in Moroccan Empire, North America? Yes. And just real quick, the Moorish consulate will not be in the Moroccan Empire jurisdiction. It will be in whatever jurisdiction that is dealing with a case or a controversy that's affecting you. So, for example, the Moorish consulate would be in the Maryland Republic territory jurisdiction, and you would exercise consular jurisdiction in that jurisdiction. So that's how it works. It's jurisdiction. Now, that doesn't mean call yourself consul or say you got a consulate and run in there and say, I'm the consulate, I got authority. No. Study what consul means, the definition of consul. Study what consular court means. Study what consular jurisdiction means. Study what all of these words mean before you start to put it into work, because they know what consular jurisdiction really means. And they know that's the platform that we, or the venue that we obtain our remedy. Just wanted to put that out there for the sister CJ Bay. And you can do your research. And also I have some information up on the website, at enforcetheconstitution.org, consular affairs. But now the CMOS, yes, Dr. Sebi. I have a video of Dr. Sebi on the same website. You click on CMOS on the webpage CMOS on the enforcetheconstitution.org website. You scroll down till you see the videos. One of the videos, he gives a description, a brief description of the natural uncultivated CMOS. He said it's really thin and it doesn't give off a lot of mucilage. Mucilage is what everybody called the CMOS gel. He says very thin, and it has no salt and it has no sand. And it grows in the ocean where the tides move back and forth, and attaches itself to a rock, and it extracts nutritions, the vitamins, minerals out of that rock. And they call it ironthropomorphous, something like that. It's in the video. Just look at the video. But the CMOS that I get from the coast of Trinidad from a brother, I don't want to put him out there. He don't want to put him out there. So I get it from the brother and his consort, and that CMOS is thin. It's very light. So the CMOS bags that I sell on the website is for $125. But it weighs 50 grams. And excuse me, not 50 grams, 50 grams. Yep, it weighs 50 grams. And people look at me puzzled, like, wait a minute, why you giving me this little bit of CMOS and it doesn't even have any weight? Well, Dr. Sebi described gave a brief description of the CMOS that has been tampered with. That's the two. When you said all CMOS is not the same, there's only two types: cultivated and uncultivated. The uncultivated CMOS looks like noodles. Some of them is a little thin, some of it's thick, and they have, sometimes they put salt on it, sometimes.
Well, that's the cultivated, you mean? That's the cultivated.
Cultivated one, yep. Yeah. And they'll even do videos where they're showing, the CMOS getting brought out of the water, but it's still thick. That's because some people have a portion of a beachfront or maybe an ocean where they grow the cultivated CMOS. So that's farm grown. That's like another word for saying concentrated CMOS.
Like people don't want farm grown fish if they eat
exactly.
Fish. They rather have wild caught.
Yeah, exactly. And that CMOS, you can tell by the texture. You can look at it, and it has a smell. It has a fishy smell. The CMOS that I have doesn't have a smell. And even though it's light and white, when you pull it, it's real hard to pull. That's because that is the texture of all of the vitamins, the 92 vitamins and minerals that our body can use to properly function. That's why the texture of that CMOS is so rich versus the other CMOS that gives off a whole lot of mucilage, got a little fishy smell to it, and they say, yeah, it came from the ocean. That's why it smelled like that. No, that's not the right CMOS.
So most of us have had.
Don't take my word for it.
Okay.
What'd you say?
Well,
I hear you.
I'm looking forward to it. No, like I said, most of us have gotten the fish for the and very salty. You have to soak it to get the and rinse it to get
the stuff off of it. Yeah, the extra added stuff. And I have yet to see CMOS that look like the CMOS, the texture CMOS that I have and that Dr. Sebi described in the video. So, like I said, don't take my word for it. Everyone go on enforcetheconstitution.org and click on CMOS, scroll down to where you see the videos. And I got 2 videos of the CMOS, and one of them talks about the description, the brief description of the natural CMOS. And then you can compare it to the pictures that I have on the website as well. I got pictures of my sea moss and the picture that's being of the sea moss is being sold in the stores in here in North America. But,
I'm like I said, I'm looking forward.
Yeah, it's flying to you right now. It's on its way right now.
To Sister Tia, I see one of Dr. Sevi's daughters on the feed. So love her. She spent a month here with me, and fed me. They fed me, food from Honduras and so forth, and I just love her to life. I will never ever forget her and Sister Earthy Yates. And
what's the name?
What's her name? I'm not gonna out her here, but she knows who she is.
Okay.
I tell her.
Well, how are you doing?
Yeah, his daughter is on the feed. I see. She said, okay. Well, okay. I see her there. But yeah, that's so she's agreeing with what you said. So but listen, this has been a wonderful, I wanted you to get, I wanted you to do most of the talking because I'm a talker, because I wanted you to get the truth out about what happened. There's so many times that mainstream media will put out a story and it turns out not to be accurate, but they never do a retraction, they never clean it up, and people are running. I mean, I don't know what became of Sister Apgaray Bay, but I met her. She came, to House of Reawakening Minds. She came all the way from, I think it was Memphis or something. This was prior to the her mansion experience, but I understand they dealt very severely and harshly with the sister. But I did have an opportunity to meet her at my facility. So but it's just to know that you use the time wisely and have been now able to come forth with even more knowledge and even more skill, and and you're still gathering information, and that you're here to help others. But I agree with you. People have to. I have a book by I can't remember the guy. It's called Word Power, and the guy who wrote the book Word Power. He has all kinds of documents and so forth that he gets. I'm a subscriber to his site, but one of the things he says when he shows his documents, he said, "Don't copy my documents word for word. These are just examples. You must, like you said, you have to become the document. You have to be it. You have to be able to stand on it, but not based on what I or somebody else tells you, but because you have it in your DNA, and you can just stand like you did, and you know when to object, and you know when to abstain and whatever to do. But we're still looking. Oftentimes we want somebody else to do it for us, but we want the benefit of having been done. And that's just not the way it works. And that's the same thing with Grand Sheik. A lot of folks would want him to, some have said, oh, well, he said that 30 years ago. And I said, well, that means he's consistent, because nothing has changed. So, and there's always new people. There are always new, when I say new, they're new awakening Moors to the fact that they're not Negro, Black, colored, African American, coons, shines, or whatever the things that we've been called. And so there's somebody hearing it today that didn't hear it 30 years ago. And he's more of a high level foundational person who is now hopefully has spawned persons like people like yourself. Rather, I don't want to use the wrong thing about persons. I know some of these words are wrong, but you know what I'm saying. Moors like yourself. I was like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but Moors like yourself that now are able to be more hands-on. He doesn't have the time, or I don't even think after 74 years in this earth plane that he needs to have to bother himself to try to sit down and do paperwork for people. But what he gives us is such a strong foundation and such a message of consistency. So those of you out there who are, like to, call people D-writers, and y'all know who you are, and like to say, the things, oh, he said that 30 years ago. He's consistent. That's consistency, and nothing has changed. It would be something if we have these great strides in the past 30 years, and he could sit back, rest on his laurels, and say, "Oh well, I took on the next level of what the prophet said." But we have not changed. I am 65. I had to be 50 some before I found out about being a Moor. So
Yeah.
to me, the temples and have been derelict in their duty, and I'm saying that because I was amazed to hear you say that, you know, the sheik had allowed you to teach civics, because most of the grand sheiks have a problem. And when they say, you know, you say civics, they'll say Prophet didn't teach that. Or if you go to the temple, they want to know, how did you find us? And I'm like, what is it, a secret society? You should have been knocking on doors, letting people know who they are.
Yeah, interjection.
Yes.
The brother was a young brother. He was actually how old was he? He was actually, I think, in his early to mid 20s, and the brother, the elder brother, made him assistant sheik of that location. And the brother, I was already, me and brother Charles and L. Smith Bay was already talking to the brother about civics, you know. And so when he made him assistant grand sheik and let him run the temple, he said, yeah, man, y'all come up on Sundays and we teaching civics. We doing civics, we doing mock court and all of that. And that's why, that was the reason why. But a lot of the older Moors, not all of them, a lot of the older Moors that are still in the temples, they're either you know, leery on trying to talk about that topic, or they're just totally against it, and that's because, you know, of the infiltration, you know.
Yeah, but what I was saying is, though, that we should have been informed, just like the Jehovah's Witness knock on doors, just like the Mormons knock on doors. The Moors should have been going, the Moor men, the Moor women should have been knocking on doors instead of hiding in temples doing reverse church and having whatever their little secret groups. They should have been knocking on doors and evangelizing, if you will, all of the lost
missionary.
Yes,
as
they should have been doing missionary work. They helped me in my great missionary work. They weren't doing it.
Work.
And when you get there, when people get there, they're asked, how did you find out? Well, I didn't find out from you because you didn't come get me, but Grand Sheik sent me here. And then they get there. We don't fool with him. Well, he sends them there because you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do when they get there, not try to put them back in some doggone, religious trick bag and just reverse
I
the
didn't understand. When I first joined the movement and I won my case, I said, okay, so there's no Moorish Americans in prison. I didn't believe there were Moorish Americans in prison until I actually went to prison. And when I was there, I didn't understand it because I was like, okay, when we go to Friday holy service or Sunday school, we're Moorish Americans. But when we go back to our cells and they do a count out, on the count sheet, we're black. Now, it says in the divine constitution and bylaws for the Moorish Science Temple of America, what act is that, bro? With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our members that they are not Negro, colored folk, black people, etc. Yeah, it's Act 6, I think. Act 6. Yeah, I'm gonna read it real quick. This is divine constitution and bylaws. Act 6, with us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality. And we are teaching our people their divine creed and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folk, black people, Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. So why are we allowing these foreigners to count us as black? That alone is a violation of Act 6, and it's a violation of international law because they're depriving you of your nationality. That's called denationalization. So I was baffled about that. I didn't understand. I was like, y'all are Moorish Americans in the temple in prison, but when you get sent back to your cell, you're black again. So you're violating your own act in the temple. That's blatant. Yeah. And I'm all of what it is. Now, of course, some of the brothers, didn't agree, and they wanted to stay in prison because they feel like they did a wrong in society and they got to pay their debt. So I was like, okay, well, this message isn't for you. I'm not here for you then. You know,
Right.
I'm here to pass a message, and if you want to stay here in this decimal crypt, then so be it. But yeah, that baffled me too. I didn't understand that, but I also accepted that, you know, you can't teach, and you know, I'm not saying this for all elders because this, you know, this doesn't apply, because this applies to also young Moors and middle age, whatever. You can't teach you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Yeah.
And you can't put new wines in old skins, or else they'll burst. So some people just can't take it. You know what I mean? They can't take the fact that you are responsible for your own liberty, not no one else but you. You know, so you have to take it and save yourself. You know what I'm saying? But it's all free will. Free will. You choose to, then true, that's good. If you choose not to, so be it. You'll learn your lesson. But
I have a PDF I would like to share. I'm not going to say what it is, but if you want PDF from me, anybody, I'm just going to say, put this over here. There's the right email. If you, Dr. Naila L@gmail.com, just say PDF. I'm sharing something, so I'm not saying what it is.
Well, a PDF, I want one.
Yeah, just email me, and then I'll send the PDF.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. I need that. But
yes,
yeah, the last thing I want to say is I was told that a lot of Moors came together while I was in, and they started Moorish American Consular Court. And it was big, and it reached a lot of territories, and it gave a lot of Moorish Americans hope for remedy. And then, you know, I was told, and I also saw that the Moorish American Consular Court was kind of disbanded and, you know, due for, of course, infiltration. And proof of infiltration is confusion and division, because that's the purpose of COINTELPRO, to cause confusion and division. And what I say in response to that is all of the Moors that were a part of Consular Court that lost faith, get back in the organizing in your territory, get back into the consulate, start your consulate, but this time don't do it based off of beliefs, do it based off of knowledge. Taj Tariq Bey, he drafted up a treatise titled Restoration of Consular Court and Juror Questionnaire. So it's a questionnaire for conceptual purposes. And I have it on the website as well. That can be found, the free PDF can be found on enforcetheconstitution.org, and you click on Consular Affairs. I uploaded it so that you can download it. And what you want to do is you want to read that, and you want to study those questions, because it'll help you understanding better actually what you're doing. So we Moors have to come together in our respective territories and study the questionnaire, study the treaty, and which is the obligation that you're holding these foreigners to, and study the Constitution, which obligates them to the treaty, which is the supreme law of the land. Study that and enforce it in a consular venue. That way we can all cooperate with each other. And I think the brother Abdullah and the brother Shem, if you all are listening, I'm looking forward to speaking with you all, to meeting with you all. Islam, brother Abdullah, I know we met before a few times. Abdullah, yeah, I apologize. We've met a few times. Brother Shem, haven't met you yet. Looking forward to it. And you got my email address. It's right there. If you want me to reach out to you all, I can reach out to you all. So I'm looking forward, because I heard you all got started a coalition, and I'm with it. I'm for it, because it's been past beyond time. But I'm back now. I'm back. And I'm persistent.
I want to say thank you again, and thank you to everyone who, like I said, we put an extra 20 minutes or so here, but we do appreciate you, and we are glad that you have set the record straight. You know, people want to run and tell something. I wonder how many people will share this video. And I don't say it enough, and I always think, you know, I don't tell people to hit the like and the thumbs. I hear there's another person that always tells people to hit like and thumbs up, and it sends me crazy that I forget to say it at all. But please like and share this video. Please like and share. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to our official House of Reawakening Minds website. We bring a lot of information, and we are going to bring a lot more. And I'm going to look and see if there are any questions or comments.
And one last thing, the school, the Taekwondo school that I'm in right now, Global Sport Taekwondo Academy 2.0, this school is actually the first property in the Charles County, Maryland Republic territory that has an Aboriginal title. So Brother Charles Arnell Smith Bay has absolute ownership over this property right here where this school is. It is not in fee simple. It is not escheated. It's allodium. Look up the term allodium and you'll see what I'm talking about. And Dr. Naila, the brother Arnell and brother Keith, they wanted me to present you all with these T-shirts from their school. Wait.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll be sending these to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be sending these to you. And yeah, anybody that's looking to learn defense, Taekwondo, this is actually the Floyd Mayweather. I'm putting it out there. This is the Floyd Mayweather of Taekwondo. He was, in 2013, he was inducted into the International Hall of Fame. So this is the school to be with. That's why I'm here. And this is my brother. Say what? Oh, yeah. Go to affairs. Everybody write this down. This is his website. And he's also starting a newspaper press. Go to affairsofthemoorishcrown.org. That is affairs, A-F-F-I-R, what? Damn. A-F-F-A-I-R-S. Affairs of the Moorish Crown, CROWN.org.
I just posted it. Affairsofthemoorishcrown.org.
Yes, and check him out. And he has a story too, a very interesting story that you want to look at.
Thank you. For everybody who's putting PDF in the comments, I'm not going back and read all these comments. I just gave you my email address, said put PDF as the subject, and email me at drnailaL@gmail.com. I will zip it out to you quickly. Yeah, like I said, it's one of them things I don't want to announce because sometimes, people don't want you to give stuff, but I paid for it. So I did buy it. I purchased it. So anyway, thank you so much. And stick around after we close. But we're going to go now. I'm going to go now. And I thank you all.
Thank you for having me. Thank you all for coming out and showing your support and watching the video. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Yes. Much. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to rock out again.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Dr. G. Really? Oh shit.
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Really? Oh shit.
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Really? Oh shit.
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Really? Oh shit.
Yeah, that's me.